I am excited to be here and really interested to see where this conversation goes. My name is Marcus Amaker, and I am a dad, and I am a husband. I've also been called the Poet Laureate of Charleston and the Gilliard Center's Artist in Residence. I'm here in the Gilliard Center with my good friend Charlton Singleton, and we're going to have just a conversation about everything that's going on right now, and all of the nuance with it as an artist.
That's going on right now. That's just perfect wording, with like what's going on. And that's just perfect wording for it. Absolutely.
Yeah. You want to tell the people about you?
I'm Charlton Singleton. I am a dad also. Yeah.
Nice.
I am the Artist in Residence Emeritus here at the Gilliard Center, and an artist in town here in Charleston. I've been playing trumpet and singing and entertaining for the last, I guess officially, about 15 years or so. I've been a public school teacher. I've been an organist at a number of churches around town. So I've been very fortunate to be sort of in the spotlight in Charleston quite a bit. And even though I'm from out in the country in Allendale, South Carolina, in the 10 Mile community, but been in the spotlight quite a bit.
Yeah, that's something I can relate to. I moved to Charleston in 2003. Let y'all know how long it's been. I didn't have hair when I moved here.
I have never known you to not have your dreads, I don't think.
Yeah.
I've always seen it with the dreads.
Yeah, I looked as clean as you when I first moved here. And I worked for the Post and Courier when I moved here, and was really getting to know my poetic voice at that time. I wasn't considered a performer by any means. I was just writing. I shouldn't say just writing. I was writing. And then I had the opportunity to host some things and started hosting more things and connecting to folks. And I've just been really in that spotlight for a while, but always, especially as time went on, realizing that it's cool for me to share experiences with other folks. So if I'm going to be considered the poet of Charleston, Poet Laureate, Charleston has to know that there's a lot of other poets doing things as well. But I am not just a poet. I've been making music since 1986. First thing I did was a tape called Big Butt.
You had a tape?
Yeah, the tape. But I've been an artist since '86, which is something years ago. So I've been doing this work for a while. So it just feels good to have platforms like this, and especially when social issues are coming up, I think people will look to us for some sort of guidance or just what we think about stuff, because we signed up for a lot of this. So
let me ask you a question about that.
Yeah.
Being that you were making music at a young age, and I'm sure just because of nature, everybody has influences and things like that. But in early on, when you started to write your own material or whatever have you, whether it was a song or whether it was just a poem that you had no intention of putting music behind, did you dabble, or how soon was it before you dabbled into social, themes and things like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it took me a while to really be strong enough in my artistic voice to feel comfortable doing social issues in my work. I started writing about social issues probably around the mid-2000s, so around 2005, 2006, was when I started to really open my eyes, and then awareness happened where I was realizing the real power of words and the real power of performance, and experiencing some things personally and really remembering stories that my parents would tell really empowered my voice to start speaking about that. So it really was about the early 2000s or so, mid to early 2000s, when I started to really think, oh, I don't have to always write about love. I could write about other things. And it's just another sort of level that I reached. When I was a kid, I wrote songs about eating chicken, or like, there literally is a song about cooking chicken. The chicken fell on the floor and how sad I was. Like, I wrote a song about that.
Do you still have that song?
Yes, I do.
I think you need to send that to me to hear.
Yeah, it's called No More Chicken, I think is what it's called, because the ants are all on it. Anyway, it's a brilliant song. Mm-hmm. So I go from that to writing about love, and then writing about universal love, and then realizing that, unfortunately, sometimes love isn't enough. And also sometimes people don't really understand the real meaning of love, So a lot of that came from writing about my city, just being here. And I always say, if you love somebody, when you marry somebody, it's in good and bad, in sickness and in health. So when I write about the city, I'm doing the best love movement that I can when I talk about gentrification, when I talk about inequities in our school system, when I talk about monuments, when I talk about seeing Confederate flags still, like, I'm giving my city the best love that I can to not look away from that stuff. So yeah, it took me a while, but once I got there, I was locked in, Yeah, what about you? How have you used your art for social justice, and when did that happen for you?
Well, I think one of the first performances that I gave solo on my trumpet. Mm-hmm. Once I could play well enough in order to stand out there and play something other than hot cross buns or a little song like that's in the beginning band book. Once I could get that out there. One of the first things that my parents actually had me learn was lift every voice and sing.
Okay. Yeah.
And for those of you that may not know, Lift Every Voice and Sing is considered to be the Black national anthem. Mm. And so playing that song was one of the first. And even then, my parents were like, well, make sure you know the words so that you can understand what you are playing instrumentally.
Yeah.
Because that makes a big difference. And actually, I heard that later on as a jazz musician trying to learn literature, and some of the older folks would say, make sure you understand the words, so you can communicate that through your horn, and your voice that way.
Right on.
And so from then, and I think I might have been in like the 7th grade or something like that. But since then, the majority of my songs have been, I guess, more along the more playful banter. But there are a few songs that I have written that not necessarily have words. Mm-hmm. At least they haven't come to me, to put down on paper yet. But they have been born out of thoughts and situations that I have come across with social subjects, whether it was being stopped for no reason, or at least I thought no reason, or being singled out because of the color of my skin, being in a room where I'm the only black person and all eyes are on me for some, for obvious reasons or something like that, sticking out in the crowd. So a lot of my songs, there are some of the songs that I have written that have been the result of a situation that I have been in. I'm not a lyricist per se, like you are, and so when performing them, they have more of a meaning for me how I play them, that way.
Word. Yeah, it's really interesting to see the power of art when it comes to these issues, and I am always amazed at how the more that time goes, the more aware I am that a lot of these things have been in a lot of the songs that I've loved
Oh,
my whole
definitely.
life. It's easier to spot with poetry. Definitely some of the earliest poems that I remember loving from Langston Hughes and Maya, I was fully aware of what was going on, but I never really felt like I was strong enough to write in that voice. So they were speaking for me for a lot of that. But then when things flipped, when I really got this power, I realized that I could write about it as well and know that this is an issue that these things need to be written about. What I love about what's happening right now is there seems to be an elevation of consciousness. I think that it was enough for somebody to say Charleston Strong 5 years ago, but that's not enough right now. And it was enough for people to speak about equality among the black community, but not speak about trans community, years ago. And that's not enough to do that now. We have to speak about everyone with these issues. So I'm really enjoying what's happening right now. I've also learned I'm kind of going off on random subjects here, but I've also learned to stay in my lane with this issue, because with these issues, because the way that I am most effective is by writing things down and performing things. But I fully support people who are in the streets,
Definitely.
who are there to fix a broken system. Like I'm so behind that.
Right.
One, I've got a 7-month-old at the house, so I don't have the energy to be out there. But two, there's a global pandemic. So those things are keeping me at the house, but I know where I am most strong. So that's just been a focus of mine, is just to make sure that whatever I'm writing is true to me, but also true to what's going on. If I'm feeling something, I'm going to write about it. And I'm sure that's for you as well.
One of the things that I admire about you is your ability to write something really fast.
Yeah.
I kind of hearken that back to an artist that we always like to talk about.
Barbra Streisand?
Not Barbra.
Oh, Prince. Yes.
Yeah, but
Okay.
well, it's just it's not a well hidden secret or anything that Prince was very quick with his pen. Like he could literally look at a paperclip, and turn it into a song in an hour or so.
Yeah.
And I have seen examples of you coming up with poems just based off of something that could have happened, a happy occasion or a sad occasion, or I would have read something of yours and seen a line in there, and I was like, oh, I was, I was at this thing with him, and somehow that I know where that came from, and that was like 2 days ago. So I'm always very very intrigued and saying, wow, that's serious talent about how fast you are to turn around a poem or some of your thoughts and to make them put on paper and for everybody to grasp them.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't know any other way to do it. So even you saying fast almost doesn't register with me. I'm like, oh, that's like how I just do it. You know what I mean? And it's just been a thing that I've always done. I always think of a lot of the things that I create, especially poetry, as sort of a conversation. So if something is happening and somebody asks me to describe it, I can describe it like that, and I might write it down, and of course I'll edit it to put some more things behind it and make it more poetic. But that's something that I talk to students about, because I think poetry and art and creation, people still feel apprehensive. They'll say, oh, I don't know that I can do that. I can't do that like you. I'm like, well, if you say that you can't, you probably won't, So I always just tell students, I'm like, think of it like a kind of conversation. Because if I ask them to write about the Gilliard Center or something, write a poem about it, how do I start? I'm like, well, what do you see? Do you see green chairs? You see a whole bunch of chairs. There's just a way to start a poem like a conversation. So I'm always, journaling, keeping things down, and that's how a lot of poems start. I've been writing. I write pretty quickly when it comes to that stuff, and I'm learning to take a little bit more time with them. So I'll take like a couple weeks to write a poem instead of like a couple days, just to make sure that I'm not just getting it out just to get it out. Like it's really the strongest message that I have. But definitely Prince was like that. And I think about him, and I know we could talk about this forever, but going back to like social justice stuff, it's really amazing to me to realize how much of that was in his work.
Definitely.
Too. And I think that a lot of people with him and other artists, like you think about Motown artists, there's so many layers to a lot of those songs, and somebody can live their whole life liking what's going on, and not really know that he's talking about police, brutality.
That's in the words, but it gets lost in the groove.
Yeah. It gets lost
picket
in the
lines and picket signs. Don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me.
Yeah.
So you can see what's going on. That's the lyrics. And I had a conversation with someone recently about that, and they were asking if artists, such as myself or anybody else that I knew locally or whatever, was inspired to do, more of their work on these social topics. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, personally for me, I think, for me, nothing really has changed in my approach. But then I followed that up with telling them or reminding them that, artists have been doing this in their work as long as we can remember, mm-hmm. Between, like we said, Prince or Marvin Gaye or Stevie Wonder. You've got
Simone,
Nina Simone. You've got reggae artists like Bob Marley, mm-hmm. Peter Tosh. All of the hip hop artists, it's out there. Yeah. But sometimes we get so lost in that groove and that bass line and that solo, in the performance of it, that we lose, the actual words. Was it Public Enemy, that Message in Our Music?
Yeah.
Music in Our Message? Or
yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
Public Enemy, and Enemy, I don't know, specifically what you're speaking on, but
the
I know
OJs had a song that was like that as well, Message in Our Music, mm-hmm. I think.
Yeah.
So it's not like artists have not been not saying these things or talking about these issues in the Black community, and how they feel about things not being equal. Mm-hmm. It's been there for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
And I remember imploring everybody just to please go back, and I gave some definite, references and said, here's a couple you can check out. Just read the words.
Yeah, just
and you'd be amazed. Just read the words on how it was then versus how it was now, how it was before that, or some of the other artists that came before them that were speaking about a lot of these subjects. So artists historically have been there. It's always there.
And what's amazing about art in general is that how much it is, I know this is an obvious statement, but how much it is a reflection of the times. Like hip hop to me is a history lesson. If you listen to hip hop, a lot of hip hop artists now, especially Black female hip hop artists, like Rhapsody is really good. Mm-hmm. No Name as well. Those are history books. You just listen to the albums, and then you know exactly what's going on and how people feel, and it's done in even a deeper way, I would say, than a lot of the older stuff. Like just because it's a lot more direct, so it's harder to miss the message.
Right.
It's harder to do that. It is sort of a direct line from Public Enemy and all that. But I think about you kind of in a way kind of discredit some of the instrumental music that you do, but that stuff speaks so much. I think about old school jazz records, especially during the I'm not sure the exact era of what it's called, but was sort of like the pro black era when everyone came out with fros and they were playing and stuff. Alice Coltrane did a lot of records in the '70s that were no lyrics to it, but you knew exactly what the energy was.
Arguably one of
Roy
the
Ayers,
most heartfelt performances is definitely John Coltrane's Alabama.
Oh, word, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, that song
Everything.
is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, just when you said Alice, that immediately took me, because I know some of the Alice tracks that are really, really very deep and very thought provoking. But yeah, that I think I've heard Alabama played at least 10 times in the last few weeks on different television, broadcasts or radio broadcasts, and just even more proof on how you've got musicians and that are out there that are talking about or playing about or singing about, these issues.
Yeah, and I think it's wonderful to learn about things through art, and then to really apply that to your life and realize, oh, okay, this is the Bible as far as it comes to a lot of these issues and stuff. And I think that that's super important. What I love about what you do, specifically with Ranky Tanky, I think it's normalizing an experience for people, instead of, hopefully at some point it won't be cool to be a gullah band. You know what I mean? Like, it just is, just because people just know that it's a part of the culture. But I love that you play the music, you play it in an authentic way, and I think that it helps people to really understand the culture and get there, because still, people are still afraid of certain experiences. People, and on the flip side, people still think that it's so special and so cool that they aren't really just sitting back and just taking it in. It's like, wow, this is so cool that that's happening. It's like, no, this isn't cool for us. Like, it's just what we do,
Right.
And that's the thing that I think about a lot. Being special is actually being separate. So, like, the definition of that word is separate. And what we are trying to do, not always, but through my art, is to make you realize that this is my life. And as a black artist, and as a black man, I've definitely experienced racism in my life, whether it's through my parents' experience, through my personal experience. So as an artist, I write about my life. If I was still writing songs about chicken falling on the floor, then y'all might be like, okay, Marcus, upgrade your thoughts, bruh.
Upgrade it to beef.
Yeah, right. Upgrade it to beef, or, you vegetarian or something, But it's what we do. So I still think that there's this perception from a white audience that, I'll speak specifically, like, Marcus is he's a social justice poet. Like, no, I'm a poet. I write about my life, and living in Charleston means that that part of it is going to be part of my experience here. I mean, the Calhoun statue, that thing. If you really think about what that stands for, like, why would I not write about that? But two, like, that is a thing that I'm deeply troubled by. And it is a part of my life, and somebody might not understand the meaning of why that is a horrible thing. But I have to write about it, and I have to talk to you about it. So,
and not to cut you off, but a lot of times you have folks that sometimes, and I don't know how they do this, but they miss the point of as an artist, you usually do things off of experience.
Word, yeah.
And the experience that I have as a black man, that comes through my art form, whether it's visual arts, whether it's, or black woman, or whether it's visual arts, whether it's poetry, whether it's
whether it's theater, whether it's song and dance or whatever have you, that experience that I have gone through is what is probably going to give me some sort of spark of creativity, or at least put that thought into my mind, and that's what I have to either put down on paper or put out through my horn or dance it out or paint it out or something like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder how folks miss that part of it in terms of that's how I get my material, through my own personal experience.
Yeah. And that's great, because I think about a lot of the stuff that's happening right now on social media. So we can just speak about social media. There seems to be an awareness of people being okay with saying Black Lives Matter. Like that's like the basis of what I hope that you would say is that my life matters. But for a lot of these businesses that are all of a sudden putting Black Lives Matter and putting the black square and having black faces, it seems like it's a marketing plan to me, and that's the disappointing thing, because that's not coming from real experience. The work that we do, the work that a lot of people in this city do, has always come from experience. And now for businesses to all of a sudden put black faces on their Instagram page isn't truthful, and that's the thing that's hurtful for a lot of people. It's like this isn't an automatic fix what we are trying to do. It's not an automatic fix. It's not a hashtag, and that's the part that where the anger comes in for me, being a dad now. A lot of the sadness that I used to feel around these issues have transformed to anger, because I really want this world to be a better place for my daughter. I don't want her to be seen as different. I don't want her to be a part of a marketing plan because somebody got killed. And Charleston, the whole country needs to fix that. But I'm curious, what do you think Charleston needs to do to become better?
Listen more.
Yeah.
Charleston's kind of hard because with tourism being the number one thing, and history, American history, Charleston's the entry port for slavery. Literally, yeah. And as bad as that is, it's a historic thing that people come to I don't know, talk about, learn about, or whatever have you. Our whole thing in this tourism, driven city, is based off of that. And we have some leaders that are in Charleston that try to balance that, I think, in a way. But there still needs to be, I think, a lot more conversation and a lot more understanding about how it actually is to be, not just a black person, but just a person of color, in this city, and how things go. Whether it is racial profiling or gentrification, all of those things add up, and having conversations with folks so that they can understand, my side, so they can understand, how it is for, me to be born in this area, to grow up in this area, and then watch this area be torn down in order to make something else, for tourism to come and talk about a subject that hates me, or whatever have you. So I think Charleston, between real conversations, not just sitting around, and real meaningful conversations that are going to finally, I think, open eyes, that are going to finally give people
a chance to hear real talk. Sometimes in conversations, you don't get always the full truth, you know, of the conversation. So I think that's where it definitely starts.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it starts with that, and hopefully that turns into action.
Action.
Yeah, and
That's the
I
next
know that
thing,
you,
action.
I know that you agree with that. I think that, yeah, I've been on too many.
You've been on so many
Panels.
boards, panels, and conversations and
Let's
things
put the
like that.
unity in community.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. And I understand, but
you know, yeah. So there's so many panels I've been on, and I've been saying no to a lot of things recently, and that's felt really good. Let me tell you, I'm like, no, just because we're tired of talking. At least I am. I'll speak for me. I'm tired of talking. I'm ready for action. I'm ready for specifically walking into a room, like you mentioned earlier, but a room of places that I love. You know, I'm not going to call you out, but just places that I love, places that I've performed at, stages that I've been on, where we have somebody black in a leadership position. We have more black females as well in leadership positions. You go to a board and, you know, you aren't the only one, and people are asking you to tell them about the black experience and stuff. That stuff needs to really shift. You know, I'm not going to run for office, but somebody needs to run for office that really understands that and really pushes people on these things, because every place that I've been at looks the same. And I wrote a poem about that, and I might read that. But every place that I've looked at, been to, has looked the same, and then I'm looked upon to speak for the black community. I'm like, I cannot do that. Like that's, I literally am one person. I can speak from my experience, like we talked about earlier. But I think action, things like the monument coming down is a real big action, and that's step 0.3. You know, like we need to be in the thousands at this point. So whatever that action means is good. I'm not going to be on your panel. Wait, where's the camera? I'm not going to be on your panel anymore. I'm tired of it. I'm tired, man.
Well, you mentioned you had a poem, you know.
Yeah.
This is from the new book.
Yeah. It's a poem called Chicken. No, I'm just kidding. So this is a poem that I wrote about that issue, about being always seen as different. And I wrote this right before going to after going to a Spoleto show where I was the only black person in the audience. And I felt that when I walked in, because I was a little bit late, and I felt that, and just everybody looking. And I was also thinking about these little things that I don't think white people think about, like the fact that I never see a mannequin with brown skin. Like mannequins always have, like I think about things like that. This is called copy paste. I have always been the thing that's not like the other. The analog touch through digital screens, the fancy drink at a neighborhood dive, the black ink bringing anxious poems to a comfortable white sheet of paper. So it would make sense to be the only brown body shopping on busy streets, walking past peach-skinned mannequins that wear rainbow-colored threads, staring out from storefront windows stuck to each other in a copy-and-paste culture void of color. When was the last time a mannequin had an expressive face behind the mask, behind the blank, glossy-eyed barrier of a window glass? When was the last time you saw a black man stand strong and unashamed with his dark, holy-featured center framed in a bleached-out world, fully aware of being the blurred-out version of his true self? I am a free token for closed minds who are broke with blind eyes, a splash, a cool glass for the sun's predictable clash with Charleston streets. I am the man without a mirror, unable to look at himself in a place surrounded by the water's reflection, someone who is always seen as the other, in a copy and paste culture void of color. I'm looking for memory coordinates instead of road maps through familiar places, gentrification. I'm looking to unravel headphone cords in a wireless world. I'm looking for flesh-colored Band-Aids that match my skin tone. I'm looking to not be so alone. It's that poem, yeah. All right.
True.
Yeah. I like that poem because when it came to me, it was like, it was flowing. But one of the things that I think about with being a poet is that we're always asked to bring the calm to a place. I'm like, sometimes we can bring some heat too, you know, and that's my poem where I like turn up the heat a little bit.
Hey, you gotta have heat to cook it.
Yeah, word, man. You gotta have heat to cook. So, how about you play something for us? If
You know, and I actually didn't know what to play.
Okay.
You know, because I don't really play a lot of things. Well, it just depends on whatever the performance is, but I don't really play a lot of things solo without having accompaniment.
Oh, word. Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends that have backing tracks and things. And,
Whatever you're comfortable with.
And
yeah,
I haven't,
yeah.
and I haven't really jumped into that, not yet. Some people have told me I should.
Yeah.
But when we were talking earlier, you know, and you said about the first time, you know, that actually flashed it back instantly to when I remember I was like, wow, that is right. My parents did make me, you know, think of or play this song. So
Nice.
I'll just figure I'll play a little of that. I haven't really warmed up. My horn is cold. Disclaimer. Disclaimer.
Come on, man.
I think I'm gonna stand so I get more air too.
Yeah. Do what makes you comfortable. Wow. Okay, well, I got the goosebumps now. Thank you.
So now, like we were talking about songs. You know, for anybody that happens to watch this, songs like "What's Going On" or like "Living for the City."
Oh man.
You know, by
Such a
Stevie
great
Wonder.
song. It's a great song.
There's I mentioned Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. They have Peter Tosh had a song called "Equal Rights," and one of the lines in it says, everyone wants peace. I want justice.
Yeah.
And then later on, equal rights and justice.
Yeah. Right on.
I was listening recently to a Prince album, and a song called "Race"
Oh yeah.
came on.
Yeah.
And in the chorus of the song, he says, "Race, in the space I mark human."
Yeah.
You know,
That's clever, man.
it's clever.
Yeah.
It's clever.
Very clever.
And if you don't get that, basically, when you see on a form and it says race and it usually says, Black or African American, Hispanic, white, whatever have you. And, the whole purpose of that song was to say that we're all the same. The end of that chorus, cut you, cut me.
Cut you, we're all bones.
All the blood is red. All the blood is red.
All the blood is red. We're all bones when we're dead.
We're all bones when we're dead. Yeah. So that just goes back to checking out the reading, the lyrics and just taking in that particular song or performance that way. Strip it down without having all of the fancy music behind it, with all of the beats, with all of the guitars, with all of the synthesizers, with all of the bass and all of that, and just read it as you would read a poem, per se. Pretty famously, he had a song called Baltimore.
Off of his last album. Yeah, that was a love letter to the Black Lives Matter movement, but also about Freddie Gray. It was really powerful stuff. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, oh man, Prince was really doing stuff, and then he ends up transitioning. It's interesting to me, but yeah, I think one of the things about Prince will lead into sort of hip hop, and I keep talking about hip hop because I love it, but I think it's amazing how hip hop Prince was.
Oh, very.
Just in spirit and just the way that he went about his business and just speaking from his soul once he was able to kind of break away from the pop era that everybody's stuck at, and that's why I really enjoy listening to a lot of hip hop, because those issues and just the truth is there. And I've learned so many things from listening to Prince. I've learned so many things from listening to hip hop, where names are thrown out there and I'm like, oh, who is this? And then you find out things. And I think that's one of the themes of this, is just really looking at art from Black artists and going beyond the smoothness, going beyond the funky bass line, going beyond the rhythm, and really listen to what we've been trying to tell you. Not trying, what we have been telling you for years. But my thing also is that if Janet Jackson couldn't change the world with Rhythm Nation, like, this poem isn't going to change the world. So it's got to be action, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. You're going to continue doing what you're doing. I'm sure a lot of new albums that they're going to come out that are teach people a lot of things, but action needs to happen.
Action needs to happen.
And I don't have that power at this point to put in real action, so it's got to be people who are willing to sit down when they listen to
I thought you were going to say willing to do the work.
Willing to do the work. Willing to do the work. Look it up. Rainbow Children.
The work.
Willing to do the work. Yeah, so people have to do the work. And I think that's the thing that I keep thinking about. I'm like, Marvin Gaye didn't change the world with what's going on. And that's one of the best albums of all time. Janet Jackson, to me, that Rhythm Nation album really was like, oh, what's going on here?
Right.
There's so much going on in that album and in the messages. So
I heard a comedian, and I'm trying to remember who. It was a Black female comedian, and she said, just because I tell you this story about this Black experience, and you laughed at it, doesn't mean it's not true.
Oh, word.
And sometimes that message of what actually happens or how something is going on gets lost in the art that person is doing, or, in this case, they thought it was a funny part of the joke or whatever have you. And she's like, no, this is what's going on.
Yeah. And I think just the last thing that I want to say is, I think that the city can do a lot more, and we have to talk about Mother Emanuel, because that was 5 years ago. And I have so many people saying, and once again, everything that I'm saying is from love. Like, I love this city.
Definitely.
But I have so many people who have told me that, oh, well, you know, Charleston came together 5 years ago. Charleston's strong. And in my mind, I'm like, we were together for a photo op. You know, like the Unity Bridge, that was a beautiful moment. I was on the bridge. I was holding hands with people. That was great. But it was a photo op. And then we got off the bridge, and then I'm visiting schools, and we still have black schools. We still have white families living around a black school, but they will travel like miles and miles and miles and miles to go to another school, and then call this school a bad school. Just walk around the city. I mean, just...
Which gets into the psyche of the students that goes into that school. You're
Preach.
a black school.
Yeah.
Or that's a black school, and it's a failing school.
Yeah, and it's, yeah.
You're getting education from a failing school.
Yeah.
How does that play into that kid's mind?
Yeah, and then you walk down these streets with the names of people who didn't believe in my freedom. You have to search for the Denmark VC statue, which that is the most like American thing that we can honor, somebody who wanted their freedom. America's supposed to be about freedom. This guy was fighting for his freedom, but the tourism companies do not go to Hampton Park. Like, Charleston's strong. Like, how do we come together? So my thing is, city, if we're really going to be strong, we're really going to come together, we've got to fix so many things. So yeah, when people were throwing rocks at businesses downtown, I was like, okay, people are angry. So are you going to listen, or are you going to, you know, we were so peaceful before. Like, that didn't work. So you got to do something else. Anyway.
Well, I'm thankful that to the Gilliard Center for giving us this opportunity to just chat, just sit and riff and talk about some things from an artist's point of view.
Yeah.
I like the way that the Gilliard has started reaching out and trying to tackle a lot of these issues, or speak about some of these issues, and have conversations and things about these issues. So kudos to them for all of this. Yeah,
I tell you, when I was on this stage for the Poetic Hip Hop show, that was one of the best experiences I've had, because we had a whole bunch of students here, and and we told them, and we told them about hip hop culture, and that was really cool. I was like, okay, so we'll end on this, but I had a photo of Cardi B up there, and I was like, who knows who this is? And everybody screamed. And then I put a Tribe Called Quest up there, and they were like, So I said, all right, well, so I'm glad that you all know this now. Like, it comes from that, you know. And I'm an old school head, even though I listen to a lot of new music, but I will always go back to that stuff. So
you should do like a whole series of like hip hop, you know, bring it back from now to back then.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah.
So they can understand, you know, and know who, you know, like everybody from African Bambaataa and
De La Soul,
Queen
Latifah, like MC Light.
Ooh, Queen Latifah. She won a Grammy on UNITY.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, and I listen
to it. Queen Latifah. She's not just from Living Single.
Yeah.
She's a Grammy award-winning rapper.
Yeah, all that stuff is great. All right, well, yeah. I should say congratulations again on the Grammy.
Oh, thank you.
Win. I mean, that is huge, man.
Thank you.
You're like, thank you.
You're going to be up there next with spoken word.
Oh, I know it. Yeah. I mean, that's a matter of time. I have that in my calendar. I'm like, win the no, that would be an honor. And I already see what you all are doing with that, and just staying true to who you are. So thank you. It's not like we're gonna have a Ranky Tanky album produced by P. Diddy or something. you know, coming out soon, or produced by Drake, you know, something like that. Like you all are staying true to who you are. So,
Yeah,
so
well,
thank you.
that's how we know. That's what we were taught. That's how we learned. Quentin and I always talk about that, about you know, just remaining true as much as we can to honor, you know, what was, you know, told to us. You know, so that's how we do.
Cool. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you all so very much.